It was a fine sunny morning when we set out to cover the last 7 miles to the glacier. We expected this to be a stiff climb. The last dark bungalow was situated at well over 10,000 feet above the sea level, and the ascent was to be fairly gradual. Suddenly, there were no more trees as the bungalow dropped out of sight. The trees and bushes gave way to short grass and light blue and pink alpine flowers. The snow peaks were close now, ringing us in on every side. We passed waterfalls cascading hundreds of feet down into the little river. We had brought with us only a few biscuits, chocolates, and a thermos of tea. We finished the tea and Vishnu scrambled about on the grassy slopes collecting wild strawberries. We are reading The Experience to the Glacier by Ruskin Bond. There was no sign of habitation or human life. Only creatures like snow leopards, gorals, bears were found. We found and explored a great white field of snow and ice, cradled between two peaks that could only have been the abode of the gods. We were speechless for several minutes. Anil's mouth hung open. Vishnu's eyes glittered with excitement. We proceeded cautiously onto the snow, supporting each other on the slippery surface. We could not go far because we were quite unequipped for any high altitude climbing. It was pleasant to feel that we were the only boys in our town who had climbed so high. A few black rocks jutted out from the snow, and we sat down on them to feast our eyes on the view. The sun reflected sharply from the snow, and we felt surprisingly warm. Within half an hour, I was a post box red, and so was Vishnu, and the two of us decided to get into our clothes. Before the sun scorched the skin off our backs. At a distance, however, the clouds had covered some of the peaks and a white mist drifted down the mountain slope. We had not gone far when lightning began about the mountain tops, followed by waves of thunder. "Let's run. We can take shelter in the cave," shouted Anil. The rain came down suddenly and the icy wind whipped our faces. We ran as fast as we could along the slippery path and stumbled into the little cave. We were drenched and exhausted. We remained at the entrance of the cave, watching the rain sweep past us. Anil took out his pocket knife, and to pass the time, we carved our names in the smooth rock of the cave. It had grown dark by the time the rain stopped. A full moon helped us find our way. We went slowly and carefully. The rain had loosened the earth, and suddenly our path vanished. The rain had caused a landslide. Had it not been for the bright moonlight, we might have walked straight into an empty void. There was only a loose, slippery shale on the narrow path. We decided not to go further and returned to the cave. We got up as soon as there was a faint glow in the sky. We took the path to the landslide and once again looked for a way across. Kamal ventured to take a few steps on the loose pebbles, but the ground gave way immediately and we had to grab him by the arms and shoulders to prevent him from sliding about 100 feet down the gorge. "We will have to look for another way," said Vishnu. We were soon on the glacier and we remained on it for a long time. For every few steps forward, we slid one step backward. Our progress was slow and awkward. Sometimes, after advancing several yards across the ice at a steep incline, one of us would slip back and the others would have to slither down to help him up. At one particularly difficult spot, I sprained my wrist and hurt my knee. But somehow I struggled behind the others. Now we had another steep climb before we reached the part that Vishnu had spoken about. It was little more than a goat track, but it took us round the mountain and brought us within sight of the dark bungalow. So here we come to the end of this excerpt.